Hello, my name is Julian Silverman, and I'm here today to talk about a question that a friend texted me last night, very late. And so I have here with me Christian, one of my research students, who's going to be asking the tough questions, and I'll do my best to answer them for you. We're going to explore a little bit about the chemistry of some of the consumer products that we are interested about today. So let us begin to compare and also talk about making hand sanitizer and soap. And so Christian, what's our first question?
So what's the difference between soap and hand sanitizer?
That is a great question. So let me bring this back down. So soap, as you may be aware, can come from different natural and edible oils. These are going to be things like, for example, coconut oil that you could buy in any grocery store, or sunflower oil, olive oil, things like that. They're going to be fats and lipids, so long chains of carbon that are going to be able to mix with some of those things that, well, you want to clean away. And then you react with a base, which is generally going to be a caustic reagent, something like a component of, say, Drano. This is a crystal version, which you can use to make soap. The liquid version you may have is actually not very useful. There's other chemicals and additives in there. With that said, soap making is very common to be done at home, but if you didn't know what was in it, I would say do a little bit more research before you look into making it at home yourself. And so, what's our next question?
How about hand sanitizers?
So hand sanitizer is actually a little easier to make, and we'll do that in just a moment. Hand sanitizer is primarily alcohol, and you actually want to make sure that more than 60% of what you're putting into your hand sanitizer is essentially ethanol, so 2 carbons, or isopropyl alcohol, which is going to be 3. And so here, what you're going to want to be careful with is that most of the alcohols that you may buy, that you may consume, are going to be less than 120 proof or 60% alcohol. And so you want to make sure that you have something very high proof. Isopropyl alcohol is a good start. That's usually sold in about 90%. And so in a moment, I'll make sure to use at least 60% in the hand sanitizer that we're going to make. And so what's our next question, Christian?
How do we make soap?
So soap, as we've talked about, is a chemical process, and so one of the reasons I won't go through that quickly today is because it involves not only things like changes in temperature, but also generally a lot of time, perhaps. If you are interested in making soap, you can come join us here at Manhattan College, where we do research on making not only safe, but sustainable chemicals and different components like soap. But for today, we're going to look primarily at hand sanitizer. So what's our other question?
Can we make the hand sanitizer?
Yes, we can. So let's do that. The good news is it's really simple. You need a couple of things. You're going to need something to collect or measure things in. You're going to need some form of alcohol. So this is not really the kind that you would buy in a store because it's very high concentration, but isopropyl alcohol would be a good substitute here. And then we also are going to take a little bit of what's called glycerol or glycerin, interestingly, a component of soap, one of the byproducts of this reaction. And so this is going to be a little bit sticky and gooey and just give it a nice feel where alcohol is going to be a little bit astringent and very dry. And so all we're going to do here, not have to worry too much about a mess. These aren't so hazardous, safe enough for use at home. And so we're going to take, in this case, let's see how much we have. I'm going to take around 60 mils, or essentially what will be 60%. I'll make 100 mils total, referring to milliliters here. And so while ethanol pours really easily and has kind of a strong scent, glycerol in this case is going to be very gooey and sticky, which makes it a good humectant, or something that helps keep the moisture into your skin. And so I will pour a little carefully here. And again, I don't want to pour too much in, or else we won't have enough of that hand sanitizer to help us with some of that biochemistry that we'll do in breaking down those critters or microbes. So you can see all I've done here is a little bit of mixing, what we call formulation in industry as well. And you can see that I can even say use my hands and just mix it up a little bit. And now you have a very simple and crude hand sanitizer that you could use. One thing you might be interested in adding are things like a dye or a fragrance. I would not ever drink this after you're done making it. And so what you can then do is transfer it to something like a bottle where you can then store it for later. And so when we're done, Christian and I will then sanitize the desk that we're using here today and sort of clean everything before we're done, just like they've been doing all week here at Manhattan College. And so very simply, from a mixture of 2 components you can buy in your drugstore, or may even have one of them in your cupboard, you can come up with a really simple and effective hand sanitizer. And probably the real reason you're watching this video today is the reason for our last question.
So what's best for combating a virus?
So the coronavirus, which you may be well aware of, is a virus, as its name, and that is actually not best for using hand sanitizer for. Hand sanitizer is an antibacterial, and though it may be effective in certain situations, what you're generally going to want to use to get rid of some of those viral components are going to be soap. And so we'll find that some of the species coming from the oil, and then the way that reacted with the base are going to be a way to break up that virus, whereas the sanitizer is going to be best used for bacteria, again, as we said. So if you're interested in these topics as well, I would say join us here, not only in the chemistry department, but specifically the environmental science program, where we study not only how we make different products like this, but then also their impacts on the environment as well. And so thank you for joining me today, and if you have any questions, throw them down there in the comments, and I'll do my best to get back to them. Thanks, Christian.
You're welcome.